Is this the end of Australian real estate? In the last 3 months, we've seen changes to superannuation, capital gains tax, negative gearing, trust distributions. We've seen the lowest consumer sentiment in decades. Interest rates continue to rise. One of the largest buyers agencies, Dashdot, go into liquidation, and Karl Stefanovic be fired from Channel 9. Now, I don't think that last point actually has any impact on the property market, but as you can see, all the points before Karl, have a lot of influence on property prices and sentiment in Australia's market. And so in this video, I want to break down 3 key topics. I want to talk about prices in Australia over the next 6 months. I want to talk about where to buy and what to buy, because although you might know the right locations in terms of value and proposition for you, you also need to buy the right asset and the right opportunity to actually get value in this market at this point in time. So first of all, let's talk about prices. Given these massive amounts of changes, the budget has shifted the property market and a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines. We're seeing this in the buyers agency. There have been groups that were going from 5, 10, 15 groups to open homes to 1 to 2 to 3 groups now in most open homes. What I think is going to happen in the next 6 months is we're going to see an increase in volume between August and October. This is the natural spring selling season. We've also got an inequality in most major cities. So if you look at Perth, Brisbane and Adelaide, which have had the highest growth the last few years, these locations have massive undersupply and still strong demand. That means prices are likely to hold rather than continue to grow in a lot of these secondary cities. As we've seen in the data, auction clearance rates have dropped across all cities, but we actually are seeing price pullbacks in Sydney and Melbourne. There's also speculative markets like Darwin, and Tasmania is certainly coming back into the picture given the changes in market cycles. If you look at property over a 30-year time horizon, Sydney and Melbourne have tended to grow in one cycle, and then inversely, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth have grown in a secondary cycle. And so if we're looking at the markets as they stand, we're changing between Brisbane, Perth and Adelaide back to Sydney and Melbourne, but in my opinion, that's not going to be in 2026. That's going to be more towards 2027, 2028. So the prices over the next 6 months, Sydney and Melbourne likely to pull back 5 to 12% depending on how far the fall is in those major cities. I expect Brisbane, Perth and Adelaide to be stagnant, or Perth in particular is continuing to grow just due to the supply and demand equation. It's also the case in Brisbane suburbs. Some suburbs have fallen, some suburbs are rising and some have stayed steady. What this means is it's about supply and demand. If we look at a suburb and it's completely built out, that's where, if owner-occupiers are willing to pay more to buy a home in those locations, then prices will rise. And that's driven by owner-occupier demand. A lot of the changes the government has made around super, capital gains tax, negative gearing, and we're also seeing the RBA hike rates, all of these changes have reduced investor sentiment and pulled investors out of the market. Now, the interesting thing here is I think the government are going to see a bit of a backlash because we're lowering the taxes that the state governments are going to be able to collect. So with less turnover of sales, we're going to see less stamp duty, less operations in terms of lawyers, consultants, accountants, agents, anyone involved in a property transaction. Less volume means we're moving and slowing down the economy. And so what I think is going to happen next year is there might be some rate cuts in 2027 because volume will continue to slow over the next 6 to 12 months. So let's talk about prices. So prices, in my opinion, aren't going to change drastically over the next 6 months. What this means is you have time in this window of opportunity to get your finances in order and go out there and buy the right opportunity, but you're certainly not under pressure. We're working with active buyers in the buyers agency in Purpose Property right now across Queensland and Victoria, telling them that it's about buying the right opportunity specifically for them. So this leads into the second area, where to buy in 2026 and leading into 2027. This is about the opportunity in the next cycle. So if we're looking at a time horizon of 5 to 7 to 10 years, where do you think property prices are going to grow the most over that 5 to 7 year window? Some other buyers agents like to speculate on 2 to 3 year windows. Myself as a chartered accountant and a professional buyer's agent and property investor have always leaned into a 7-year time horizon. I think 7 is the magic number. It's my favorite number. One of my favorite numbers. 21 is actually my favorite number. But 7 is a good number, in my opinion, when it comes to property investing because it gives you a reasonable time horizon to get into a property investment opportunity and then exit over a cycle in a property market. If you speculate on 2 to 3 years, you can have a lot more volatility and risk going for a shorter time horizon. So I'm probably a mid long-term property investor. I don't like the idea of speculating in the short term unless you've got a great opportunity and you're buying well below market value and you can ride up a short-term wave of growth to then exit easily. But for most Aussies, most everyday Australians, you've got entry and exit costs and holding costs, and putting all of that together, when you run the numbers, is actually a lot more risk when you do some of these short-term deals. The other thing to note, short-term deals are going to be killed on taxes moving forward. The reason is we're moving from the 50% capital gains tax model to the indexation method. And so let's say you have a property that you hold for 2 years. Well, under the indexation method at say 5% a year, you might have a 10% increase in your cost base. So if you buy the property for $1 million and you sell it for $1.3 million, then you've made a $300,000 gain. Under the old system, you could halve that gain and pay taxes on $150,000 in your personal tax return. Whereas, say you sell in that 2-year window and your indexation only creeps up a 10% basis, so 5% across 2 years to keep it simple, your cost base has gone from 1 million to 1.1. So you're actually paying a gain on $200,000 in your tax return. What happens over a longer time period when you use the indexation method is there tends to not be as big a difference between the 50% discount and the indexation method over a 5 to 7 to 10 year window. So those short-term traders are going to be hit more in that 1 to 3 year window if they're looking to flip assets or sell in a quicker time period because of the way the indexation capital gains tax works. So that's just something else to note when it comes to buying. Now, locations, I'm certainly recommending clients Southeast Queensland if you're looking towards the Olympics, or Victoria, largely around Geelong, West Melbourne, North Melbourne, and Southeast along the Bayside, in terms of value opportunity, in terms of the next macro cycle in Victoria over a 7-year window. So for me, taking that magic 7-year number, for clients, I'm recommending Melbourne or Brisbane largely, or Southeast Queensland largely. Now, the reason we're still investing in Southeast Queensland is the limited land supply. So we're buying in suburbs which are built up, and this leads me into what to buy. And it's about buying properties with development or upside potential. Now, with all of these changes, trusts, super, negative gearing, we've also got the rate hikes, which is impacting cash flow. It's really important now that you have assets that largely wash their face. So that means the income is covering largely most of the expenses, or has the potential to cover most of the expenses in the future. What this means is we want to buy assets that can add a granny flat, which is simple. You can do that with a straight building approval and throw that granny flat on there. For the houses where you do a granny flat, you tend to want to buy the higher price point assets because a granny flat costs the same whether you build the asset in New Farm in Brisbane or whether you build the asset in Woodridge in Logan. That granny flat's still going to roughly cost you $250,000 to $300,000. Now, what this means is the rent is usually very different if that granny flat's in New Farm on a $2 million property versus Woodridge on a $1 million property, which is kind of crazy that we're talking about Woodridge selling for $1 million, but that's the reality. It prices the last 12 months. So when we're doing granny flats with clients, we're recommending that we do granny flats in those higher price point locations where you can get a straight building approval. And typically that's within Brisbane City Council. Sometimes that's in Redlands City Council, which has some $1 million price suburbs. And sometimes that's also in Moreton Bay on the fringes of Brisbane on the north side. Now, the second option is to look at development opportunities. Now, development opportunities are where you can separate your assets. You can have one house at the front, which you keep and renovate, and one house at the back, which you build a brand new home. I just got approvals for one of my buildings in Ipswich in Red Bank Plains this week. And we're starting on that project next week, breaking ground, tearing down some of the gardens and the landscaping that's there, creating a flat pad to build a brand new 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home with a double garage. The really cool thing about these projects is they work under $1 million. And I'm going to release a video soon showing you the detailed numbers on these projects. But at a high level, each of these projects makes a roughly 20% plus return within a 12 to 18 month window and largely costs around $900,000 to buy the property and $400,000 to complete the project with a expected profit of $250,000 to $300,000. So that's my second option in terms of what to buy is a development site with ideally strata potential or even subdivisions, but strata is actually a little bit easier, turning 1 into 2, which is quite a simple process with the right builder and the right town planners and the right trades and all the right contacts. Now, the exciting thing is we are helping all of our clients who want help in this area in terms of project consulting. So we will organize every part of that process, making sure that the project is covered end to end. So if you're interested in that and you're working with us as a client or you're a past client, reach out to us. And we are going to offer this to the market soon in terms of project consulting. So definitely reach out to myself and the team if you need help in Southeast Queensland or Victoria building a granny flat or a secondary dwelling. We can consult with you on that project and assist throughout every step of that process. So prices over the next 6 months, definitely going to be compressed in Sydney and Melbourne. Where to buy? In my opinion, we're buying in Southeast Queensland for those granny flat and development opportunities. Now, Victoria, what are we buying in Victoria for most clients? Ideally sub $1 million. The reason is that plays in the first home buyer space, it plays in the affordability space, and it plays well into the data over the next 5 to 7 years. A lot of people on 2 household incomes can afford an $850,000 house. Whereas that $1.8 million house, yes, there's going to be more people that want to invest in their homes given the tax changes, and the own home or the principal place of residence is now probably the biggest tax haven when it comes to real estate in Australia, which is why you see these buyers agents and property gurus buying $5, $10, $15 million homes. The reason they're buying these $5, $10, $15 million homes is it's probably the biggest tax haven because any gains on your own home in Australia are completely tax-free. Now, the reason we buy at that sub $1 million price point in Melbourne a lot, or Victoria a lot, especially in that Geelong, North Melbourne, West Melbourne, Southeast along the bay, $1 million, sub $1 million, is the cash flow balance. Because over the $1 million mark, you get what's called yield compression. We see issues there with serviceability, especially with the loss of negative gearing from 1st of July 2027. So ideally buying a house between $600,000 to $900,000, again with granny flat and development potential, is ideally what we're buying in the Victorian market. Now you might be wondering, whoa, you've just thrown me so much information, Luke. How do I apply this to my own property investing journey? Now, it's all about balance. So if you bought with our business, for example, and some clients had a chat with me recently, they bought 2 or 3 homes with us in Brisbane, and I was telling them, buy in Victoria. It makes sense. You're diversifying your portfolio. You've then got assets in each state and you're balancing out your portfolio. Or you might have 3 houses in Melbourne or Victoria and you want to buy in Brisbane. Or you might have a house in Perth and a house in Darwin and a house in Melbourne. Well, then maybe you want to buy in Brisbane towards the Olympic Games to have spread across those markets. Although we started as a Brisbane buyers agency and now we buy across all of Queensland and all of Victoria with our boots on the ground teams, it's all about buying the right property specifically for you. What to buy and where to buy needs to be answered and tailored to your situation. So if you look at my journey and where I'm sitting, I bought largely and heavily in Brisbane between 2018 and 2025. Now, given I've got 6-7 assets in Brisbane, I'm going to develop and sell off some of those front houses on the developments. I'm going to sell some assets. And then I've also got holdings, 2 properties in Victoria. I've also got a unit block in Coffs Harbour. And I'm buying a property at the moment in Sydney, about 25 k's north of Sydney, in a commercial residence there, which I'll share more about in the next 6 months. Now, the reality is that spreads me across 4 locations and 3 states. So I hold properties in Southeast Queensland, in Geelong, in North Melbourne, in Coffs Harbour, and I will hold a property in Sydney as well. So that gives me spread across 4 locations, across different markets, at different cycles, at different price points, and that's how you build a resilient property portfolio. I think one of the most important things is working with your mortgage broker, which you can have a click in the link in the description below if you want to chat with my broker, because moving forward, finances are going to be so important. Now we're past the 30th of June 2026. Every man and his dog who switched on will be finishing their tax returns, getting to their mortgage broker and getting ready to buy the right investment opportunities. But you can sit on the sidelines if you want to, but you need to pick the right deals out of the market. So I know that's been a lot of info. There's been so much happening in the last 3 months, but I wanted to talk about whether property investing is dead. I don't think so. I think if you take that mid to long-term horizon, there's certainly great value here in Australia. Safe as houses, as they say, as an investment opportunity. So I'm continuing to back property investment as my wealth creation vehicle over the next 5 to 10 years and moving into granny flats and developments further, given what's happened in the changes. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Do you think property investing is dead in 2026 and 2027? Or are you buying deals now that suit your investment opportunities and portfolio? If you do want help buying in Queensland or Victoria, head over to purposeproperty.com.au to book in a free chat with myself, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.